And for those with appointments isn't practical, one-day dentistry with sedation is the perfect solution. I wonder if Dr. Pelican Total Dentistry will be our first floating dental office in space. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other. Call 847-358-2477 for your free sedation consultation today. 847-358-2477.
This is Joan Esposito, and here at WCPT, we love pets. So much that we're spotlighting an adoptable, adorable dog or cat every month. So many deserving pets are waiting for their forever home. We've partnered with community shelters and our sponsors, Love for Dogs Pet Grooming and Mark Drugs, to talk about why rescue is best. It's all on Joan Esposito Live, Local and Progressive. See our current adoptable at WCPT820.com.
With each breath, allergens, germs, and viruses get trapped in your nose. Now there's a simple and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage, available at Navage.com.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Requirements that people be vaccinated against COVID-19 continue to draw the focus of politicians. The White House is blasting 2 Republican governors over their moves against such mandates.
On Monday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order banning any entities from enforcing a vaccine mandate. He's urging lawmakers to pass a ban into law, like Florida did last month. Governor Ron DeSantis' government has now issued its first fine to a county for violating the law.
This has become a political issue.
White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki agrees.
Putting politics ahead of public health.
Saying both DeSantis and Abbott have an obligation to help save their people's lives. And their opposition to vaccine mandates does the opposite. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The International Monetary Fund is downgrading its outlook for the global recovery. It now sees global economic growth this year coming in at 5.9%, 6% for the U.S. In July, the IMF forecast U.S. growth at 7%. Geeta Gopinath is director of IMF research.
The global recovery continues, but the momentum has weakened, hobbled by the pandemic.
She says consumer price inflation has increased rapidly in many countries.
Food prices have increased the most in low-income countries, where food insecurity is most acute, adding to the burdens of poorer households, raising the risk of social unrest.
Stocks ended the day lower on Wall Street. The S&P 500 fell 10 points, or 0.2%. The Dow dropped 117, and the Nasdaq 20. The Food and Drug Administration has authorized the first electronic cigarettes in the U.S. The FDA says R.J. Reynolds vaping products could help adult smokers quit. Last month, the agency rejected applications for more than 1 million e-cigarettes and related products, mainly due to their appeal to underage teens. This is AP News. If you've been following the story of Gabby Petito, a Wyoming coroner has now released more details on her cause of death. AP correspondent Jennifer King has those details.
Teton County Coroner Dr. Brent Blue had previously classified Gabby Petito's death as a homicide. Now he's releasing how she was killed.
Caused death by strangulation.
Blue says he's prevented by Wyoming law from sharing many details about the case.
This autopsy included a whole body CAT scan, a examination by a forensic pathologist, an examination by a forensic anthropologist, and toxicology evaluation.
She was reported missing September 11th, and her body was discovered on September 19th.
Her body was outside in the wilderness for 3 to 4 weeks.
Petito's boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, is considered a person of interest and remains unaccounted for. I'm Jennifer King.
And I'm Ben Thomas, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
On Chicago's south side, Pershing is blocked off between Indiana and Calumet Avenues. That's due to a shooting investigation that occurred just outside Phillips Academy. In Elgin, an injury accident on Randall Road at Route 72. Southbound Tri-State, solid 159th on over to Halstead with an injury crash blocking the right lane. Kennedy out to the split 1916 in the Express, 42 to O'Hare. Inbound from O'Hare, 44, 27 minutes on in from the junction. Ike outbound from the Circle to 39 90 and 46. Stevenson outbound from DeSable Lakeshore Drive on out to 355 Hour 3. Inbound is jam solid between the Des Plaines River Bridge and Central. That's due to the motorcade. Now, from 355 on into DeSable Lakeshore Drive, that's an hour and 26. That's traffic. I'm Mary DeBadges.
This is Joan Esposito, and here at WCPT, we love pets. So much that we're spotlighting an adoptable, adorable dog or cat every month. So many deserving pets are waiting for their forever home. We've partnered with community shelters and our sponsors, Love for Dogs Pet Grooming and Mark Drugs, to talk about why rescue is best. It's all on Joan Esposito Live, Local and Progressive. See our current adoptable at WCPT820.com.
Wizard World returns to Chicago October 15th through the 17th at Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. Celebrate pop culture and meet William Shatner, Michael Rooker, Outlander's Sam Heughan, and stars from Harry Potter, Buffy, Arrow, Once Upon a Time, and more. Plus, artists, Q&As, music, you name it. You can even dress up in your favorite costume. It's okay. It's Wizard World. Tickets start at $40. Kids 10 and under are free. Visit wizardworld.com for more info.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And of course, a great conversation with Joan Esposito. I love getting to work with Joan Esposito. I know that we don't get to see each other hardly at all. I get to watch her live stream, as you can, on WCPT 820's Facebook page and our YouTube page. So go ahead and join our page, subscribe to our page on YouTube, just in the event, let's just say, not for nothing, that Facebook maybe goes down somehow. You still have the ability to watch the show on YouTube. Of course, we love our terrestrial radio listeners. We talked a few weeks ago with Thom, our car guy, about AM on radios, and I wonder how many people listen on their AM radios, because we have so many smart speakers. We have so many different ways to consume these conversations. So I wonder how many of you listen on your 820 AM, your good old transistor radios. You're plugged in. We have one in our kitchen. We have just like a regular little digital radio alarm clock, and because it has AM on it. We have actually about 4 or 5 in our house. My car still has AM capabilities, so I'm just curious how many of you are listening on your AM radios right now. And if you're listening on your smart speaker, that's cool, on your phone. You know, when it gets darker, as we get into the winter, it might be harder to hear me on the AM radios. So if you haven't yet downloaded an app, or if you have the ability to go to our Facebook page or our website, because you can listen on all of those platforms. Like, for example, if you go to WCPT's website, there's the option to listen live right now. So you can listen to my show as it's playing. You can also find earlier broadcasts of other shows when you visit our website. And the same thing on our Facebook page. You can scroll through and go, oh, hey, I missed that conversation that Hal Sparks was having on Saturday. Or I wanted to hear some Tita Jackson, but I don't get up that early in the morning. You have all these options. So as the weather gets colder and as our daylight hours gets darker earlier, it's going to be harder to hear me live on AM radio coming up in the wintertime. So have that ability to switch over to the digital option, in whatever form that is. Our number, of course, to join our conversation today is 773-763-WCPT. That's 773-763-9278 to join the conversation anytime by calling us and or texting us to that number. Of course, we always love to hear your lovely voices. And it gives us a chance to go back and forth. Sometimes there have been some folks who will text me something and I kind of look over and I try to get the gist of what folks are writing, and sometimes they're doing sarcasm, because I'll think, oh, is that an attack? And then I'm like, oh no, they're being funny, and that can be sometimes hard to pick up on. But please express yourself in any way you would like, hopefully in a polite and congenial way, and one that's a back and forth conversation. And I know that Joan was talking. Man, Joan was getting fired up about exactly the kind of thing that we talk about. She hit on so many of the points that I've mentioned that I also am passionate about when it comes to shootings in our city that for such a long time we just always assumed when we heard there was a shooting, that was probably on the west side or the south side. And there are so many people who just figure, you know what, it really doesn't make a difference. It's just, in those communities. And they say it that way, those communities. It's just them. It's the thugs. It's the gangbangers. And if somebody is innocent and isn't in the, that's tragic. But at least it was over there. But now, like Joan said, it's in the Gold Coast. And we had a shooting right over here in Norwood Park at the intersection of Milwaukee and Devon and Nagel over by the Superdog. And people are starting to say that crime is bad. And there have been, we're talking about that. I mentioned it yesterday that my friend Representative Jaime Andrade's son is afraid to be in his own backyard because of the increase of gun violence. Only it's because it's coming to us that it seems like it's getting worse. And it is in our neighborhoods. Only it's been like this for decades for people who live on the south side, on the west side. This is a normal for so many people in communities where they're just trying to raise their families and make a living and stay in their homes. And people feel as though if they've bought out or they've earned something, don't we all deserve to live safely? Wasn't that always the case? So I know a lot of people have solutions or thoughts about what we need to do, and it does come down to the access of guns. And I also have mentioned this about the ability to have conflict resolution, to de-escalate a situation, to not think that somebody, if it's the idea of being disrespectful or they're in your territory, that doesn't just spontaneously erupt. That's something that is a part of so many. I mean, we do that. That's why so many of us dig into our ideals. And if we see someone that contradicts that, we get upset, we get angry, and some people storm a Capitol, and other people get nasty on social media. We all need to find ways to take a breath, to take a moment, and decide if the actions that we are going to take in the moment are appropriate and rise to the level of the situation that we are in. And I will say that I am guilty of that sometimes too. I need to take a breath when things get heated, when I feel like I'm under attack. I think that happens to everyone at some point. That's our survival instinct. Your brain starts having that fight or flight, and some of us walk away from an argument, and some of us dig in and want to be right. There's that righteousness there, and in certain places, certain circumstances, that can become violent. 773-763-9278 to join the conversation anytime. And I wanted to continue that conversation about a shooting because today near Phillips Academy High School in Brownsville, in our city, not that community or those people, in our city of Chicago, our neighbors, and even if you don't live in Chicago, our neighbors, a man and a teenage girl were shot this afternoon near Phillips Academy High School. A 46-year-old man and a 14-year-old girl were shot at 3:30 on East Pershing Road in the 200 block. In Bronzeville, and she was shot in the abdomen and taken to Comer Children's Hospital, and the man was shot in the left arm and is recovering at the University of Chicago in unknown condition. And I can't even imagine living in a community. I mean, my son takes a train every day to go to school, to go to high school, my older son, and I wonder, does he have the instincts, if he hears anything or how to react to something, what to do? Because this is being realistic. Although he has been taking shooting drills, he's been participating in those since he was 7 years old, because he's just slightly older than the children that were murdered at Sandy Hook in Connecticut. And so it's been more of his reality than my reality as far as what would I do in that situation. Although, do we all need to do that? Do you take steps to make sure that you're safe? I know we had our friend yesterday tell us that one of our listeners called and said that he keeps a spare cell phone and a spare wallet, so that the dummy wallet, so that if he is mugged, he can give that to them and hope that they don't ask for more. And that's an interesting, a smart way to handle it. I don't know how I would react in the moment, though. And then there are people who say, well, that's why I carry a gun. And yet the instances in which someone is successful in fending off an attacker when they are armed, when the victim is armed, it's rare. It is not, unless you have that muscle memory instinct to react that way. I don't know who's capable of that. So I really I don't know what I would do in that situation. I remember when I was younger, I used to, maybe because I saw too many violent movies, my parents often let me watch movies of violence. Sorry, Mommy, I'm talking out of school. My parents often let me watch movies that had violence. Never any movies with any nudity or sex. I watched many movies with violence in them, and I remember being on the train. I went to Lane Tech, so I took 2 buses and a train to get to Lane from Norwood Park. And I remember thinking, if something happens, do I duck under those seats? Do I, where would I have the best ability to have a barrier or something to hide? And that was when I was 14 or 15 years old. There were clashes between gangs when I was at Lane. Let me take a break here, and we'll continue our conversation and see what your experiences have been. What do you think you would do in these situations, or whatever else is on your mind, because this is your conversation. 773-763 WCPT. Dave from Hoffman Estates is on hold, and I'm going to take his call right out of the gate when we come back after this break in a moment on WCPT 820. We're driving it home, and I'm your host, Patti Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Cliff Kelly, the governor of talk radio. What's Cliff Stakes? Well, it's a thought-provoking, insightful political conversation with invited panelists and listening audience participation to discuss and address issues that inform how we make decisions.
Join Cliff Kelly every Sunday evening at 7, right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
O'Reilly. It's Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. That means you can get up to a $25 gift card after mail-in rebate with the purchase of your Superstart battery. Return power, performance, and reliability to your car, truck, motorcycle, and more with Superstart batteries. Only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Well, the Democrats are fighting amongst themselves. The Republicans are still trying to overturn the 2020 election, and the Fed is going to stop easing money next year. So what could you do, you ask? Time to buy that new home. Or if that doesn't float your boat, it's definitely time to refinance. Call me, Scott Silberman, at 847-423-0301 to discuss your financing needs. For purchases, I will run you through automated underwriting so you will have a solid pre-approval when you start looking. Realtors really love that Oops. For refinances, whether you are looking to get cash out to consolidate debt or do some home improvement, shorten your loan term, or just get a lower rate, quit waiting. The Fed couldn't be any clearer. Rates next year are going up. So call me today, Scott Silberman, at 847-423-0301. Start online at scottsilberman.go, apmc.com. And yes, this old school liberal still answers his own phone, 847-423-0301.
American Portfolio Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender, NMLS 175656, Scott's NMLS 681059.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
It's true, I am taking your calls. 773-763-9278. Give us a call and let us know what's on your mind. Always love to hear from you. And of course, watch our live stream. I have to check in with our friends on Facebook and YouTube in a moment. But right now, we're going to check in with Dave from Hoffman Estates. Dave, I got your article about the pipeline in the Midwest, and I'm going to go ahead and be terrified later about this article from 2015. Although it's exactly 6 years ago that they wrote this about the possible rupture of an underwater oil pipeline through the Straits of the Mat. Thanks for that. I'm going to be up all night. Thanks.
Yeah, and then the pipe's only gotten 6 years older.
Exactly. It's fine.
And then, like when you mentioned about the show on the 8th, your show on the 8th will already be that hour back because we're going to turn back the clocks on November.
Oh, that's right.
So anywho, just a little FYI, but I was mentioning to the screener. Next time you get a chance, when you get down to Springfield, if you get to rub shoulders with any of the Congress people, that I don't know if you do or not when you're there, but find out from one of them, well, why hasn't none of them drafted up any kind of resolution or a bill that those seditionists from January 6th, be it if they were veterans, that they should immediately lose benefits. Because obviously they didn't want this government no more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't have it both ways. You want to overthrow the government, but you still want to collect and get medical from this same government that you wanted to overthrow.
Well,
if they were active duty, they should immediately get dishonorable discharges so they don't get any kind of benefits.
I have no idea how any of that is working. Are you aware of any current serving office, anyone in the military right now that was at the insurrection on January 6th that has been called before a JAG or anything like that in order to address their behavior? Interesting.
That's just the thing, that they just kind of like, let it go, that no harm, no foul. But actually there was, and been kind of a trial run, Next time, they will come either with arms or whatever and stuff like that. And they haven't had nothing happen to them, and that's not right. You can't have it, both ways. That you want to overthrow this government, but yet you still want to collect and, get benefits and whatnot from it. In fact, they should have to pay back from January 6th to right now.
But
that's my feel.
Don't you get the sense that even with a lot of judges around the country who are handling some of these cases, that there isn't a sense of urgency to hold these folks accountable and to prosecute them to the fullest extent of what actually transpired?
And, that and some of the other stuff is what kind of gets me a little bit angry with the Democratic Party, because they're looking soft. And that the Republicans they'll throw something else up the next day, and it's just kind of like a Pokemon or something like that they're going, okay, they hit this thing, they hit that, and then meanwhile, another day has come and another day has passed. It's close to the election.
Yeah, it's...
And I don't know, and then, we, like I've always said, I've seen the enemy, and we is they. We're, they, the Republicans, they don't care. What they do, they'll circle their wagons around. Somebody could be dirty as homemade dirt, but us, we'll like the Al Frankens and that kind of case. We run them out.
You know what? I think that's kind of part of it, is that we, in my experience, are not willing to be ruthless in some of these situations. Right. But conservatives are willing to be ruthless, like whether it's holding up an appointment to the Supreme Court or holding up a bill that would help with the, spending bills that would help millions of people and help children who are in poverty, help people who don't have access to health care, provide, internet access, all these different things. They're ruthless because they want, one, sometimes it's to make the leader look bad, whether it's Obama or now Biden. The other is to, I guess, swing that bat of power because they can. And I don't...
Yeah. Well, on that one, that's where I blame President Obama. When they had that break, he could have put in, that Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That time. And he didn't, because it wasn't the way to do it or something, So it's like, well, now we're paying the price.
Yeah, it is fascinating to me. That's, I know I've talked about this before, just like on a small level in my own experience. I ran against a Democrat who was willing to be ruthless in a campaign and weaponize the trauma of rape survivors. And yet when it comes to doing it, like you asked, your question, has any legislator, Lindsay LaPointe hasn't demanded anything or even presented anything that is aggressive enough to make any sort of significant changes in people's lives in a fundamental way. Because, it's, they're selectively outraged and selectively ruthless sometimes. So we need to, but I don't know how would you want Democrats to be ruthless in situations like prosecuting or any of the other situations, whether it's a Supreme Court justices? I mean, do we play the same games that they do? Do we become like the people that which we detest?
Well, I guess it depends how bad we want it. LBJ was, he knew how to play that game, but. In closing, so you can get to the other ones, just out of curiosity.
Yes.
Aside from the family and that, who inspired you the most to be progressive?
Huh. I can't think of a moment of... my husband and I have talked about this. I think it was my experiences. I think that I got the sense that because I survived rape as a young child, because I was in a situation where I was even though I'm very light skinned and I present as white, I was still the darkest in my school. Everyone knew that I was Mexican, aside from the kids that were bussed in. And I remember being in second grade, and I think I've mentioned this story before, so bear with me. But I remember how the black students were treated worse than we were. by the teachers. There was a teacher in second grade who I remember grabbing one of the black students by the wrist and dragging him across the room. And I just knew it was wrong. And I think that's where, that sense of justice, that sense of treating people equally is what I consider to be part of being a progressive or a Democrat or a liberal. Whereas somebody else who is more conservative or has these what's quote unquote authoritarian family values, that's how you have to treat people to make them learn, right? That's not where I come from. So that from a very young age, I had that in me. I got into a fist fight in high school defending a student who had some challenges intellectually because another student was picking on him, and I was willing to fight a boy. So it's been there since the beginning.
No, in mine, so you can get to the others. I'm sorry I tied it up so long. In mine, it was actually Jerry Springer and then Dick Kay.
How Jerry Springer was an influence for you as a progressive?
Oh, he had a beautiful show. I loved his show. It nothing like his TV show.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, it was great. He was excellent. And in fact, they teamed him up with Dick to see if he had the chops. But no, I wish he still was on. That's true.
I thought you were talking about
Listen, I tied it up too long.
All right.
I'm going to let somebody else
See, I love our WCPT family. Have a great day, Dave. Take care. Thank you so much. And John in Indiana is calling to join the conversation. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Okay, Patty. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. I'd just like to talk about the perceived anarchy or lawlessness regarding crime and carjacking specifically.
Yeah.
Also the smash and grabs. And what I think there's a perception of lack of crime and punishment. And I know this goes against a lot of quote unquote liberals. I don't believe in this liberal conservative stuff. This is totally alien to me.
Okay.
I focus totally on issues. I'm issue oriented. It's like we had a guy, Norman Goldman, used to say, what the heck did he say? I can't think of what he said, but he said he always would force us to focus on the issues.
Okay.
Trans-political, okay? So the thing about it is there's always been inner-city poor youth in Chicago. We've had that for many, many decades. But right now, and what's happened in the last, say, few years, what is the single thing? And I heard, I'm not sure if this is true, this is something someone can look up, but that, for example, they had the juvenile detention centers, and that they're closing them. That the state of Illinois is going to close like 4 or 5 of them throughout the state. I don't know how good they were in reforming children. Basically, if you're under 18, you're considered a child, and maybe that's the rationale. But the fact is, if somebody pulls a 9mm on someone and takes their car, and in some cases shoots the victim, and there's very little punishment associated with that, then this gangster mentality is going to prevail. It's going to go on and on. It's never going to stop. So I feel that there has to be some repercussion to these youth for performing crime. If they're caught, they should be severely punished. I don't know what else will work. And I'd like to get your reaction to that.
Well, I know that there is a push to close some of the juvenile prisons in Illinois, and that's something that has also been part of the social justice reform that was in Springfield. I don't have information in front of me as far as if in a situation that you're describing where someone pulls a gun and shoots somebody that they aren't going to be held accountable. I know that there are, of course, we know that there aren't as the level of percentage of prosecutions that we would want in gun violence. I remember talking to some of my friends at the FBI, and it's not just the prosecution and imprisonment or sentencing, but it's also the ability to catch the perpetrators, the people that are taking. That is problematic too. Whether it's the evidence, the ability to get witnesses, because we know in a lot of these communities people are afraid to speak out in fear of retaliation. So you've got, let's say, again, this number is older because I was with some folks from the FBI about 10 years ago, and they said that the rate of arrest was around 28%, and then half of that maybe was prosecuted. So you're at almost less than 15% of the violent crimes that were being prosecuted 10 years ago, and then of that maybe 5% sentencing, right? So that's just in general, all the gun violence in general. Now when it comes to the juvenile cases, again, I don't know what those numbers are, but the same thing I'm guessing applies. And then even more so, that urgency, that sense to how do we rehabilitate somebody who maybe wasn't, if it wasn't a gun violence situation. But look, the fact that we need some sort of reform for juvenile defendants, for juveniles who are getting pulled into these criminal activities, we also need to look at before that happens. There's a lot of there's a lot of layers to it. There's economic, there's mental health, there's access to education. Go ahead.
Well, wait a minute. If these kids were in school, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, whatever happened to truancy? If you're in school, then you're not gangbanging. I mean, it's just basically, generally speaking, the lack of law enforcement. I know the cops kind of have their hands tied, and whether it's truancy, whether it's recklessness in driving, the police just aren't enforcing the laws. And I don't know if that's part of this equation, but it sure seems like that, Well,
and that's something where we would be going down the path of sort of secondhand knowledge as to whether or not they're getting out of their cars, whether we've heard sort of anecdotally that they're not getting out of their cars when something happens, that they're waiting. That I don't know who wants to substantiate that. I know that I've heard that, but at the same time they've come under attack, and I don't know how we come back from that. How do we support those who we call on when we are in danger? We can say all we want about the police, but at the end of the day, who are we going to call if something happens? And we need to be able to rely on them. And it has to be a two-way street there too, don't you think?
Absolutely. And Patty, I appreciate you just hearing me out, because
of course
I know there's a lot of Chicagoans that are, think about it. You spend your whole life here, you're building communities, and then we see this violence that's going on, and there seems to be no end to it. There's a lot of finger pointing, but the people that we are hiring, which is our public officials, we pay them, I don't see them really getting a handle of this thing. I mean, there's a lot of talk back and forth, but I don't know what the end game is. It's just frustrating, I guess.
It really is.
Thank you for
of course.
Thank you for your time, Patty.
Oh, I'm grateful for the conversation, John. Be well.
You too. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, more calls, 773-763-9278. I love when the phone lines light up. And you know what? I know that sometimes you're going to disagree with me. Don't hesitate if you want to disagree. And I'll do my best to keep everyone on the same page, at least when on the conversations. And also, I'm late for the break. I apologize. More after this. I'm Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez, WCPT 820. Thanks so much.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
On Chicago's South Side, there's a shooting investigation underway, and it has Pershing shut between Indiana and Calumet Avenues. Headed on the eastbound side of I-80, bumper to bumper from Cicero into the Tri-State. East 80-94, stop and go from Torrance on over to the state line with a crash. Eden's in from Lake Hook Road solid from Gulf down to the Kennedy Merge, and Lake Hook Road down to the junction a half hour. Now the Kennedy out to the split is 16, 15 in the Express, 37 out to O'Hare. Inbound at Madison a crash, O'Hare back in 50 minutes, 25 of that on in from the junction. Ike outbound slammed out to 25th Avenue, from the Circle out to 390 and 55. Stevenson outbound FD to Harlem. From DeSable Lakeshore Drive on out to 355 in 1 hour. That's traffic. I'm Mary DeBadges.
Your life, your hopes, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m., it's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Some people treat investing like a game, but Marcus by Goldman Sachs approaches investing in a smart way with digitally managed portfolios that leverage Goldman Sachs strategies. So, do you want to play games or do you want your money to work smart? you can money. Visit Marcus.com to learn more about saving, borrowing, and investing from Marcus by Goldman Sachs.
Investing involves risk and investments may lose value. Brokerage and investment advisory services by Goldman Sachs & Company, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. Lending and deposits products provided by Goldman Sachs Bank USA. Member FDIC.
If you don't have final expense insurance, this message is for you. LifeCare provides valuable whole life insurance to help cover final expenses, medical bills, burial costs, and unpaid debt. A final expense insurance policy is fast, easy, affordable life insurance available to anyone between the ages of 50 and 80. No medical exams, no lengthy questionnaires, and no waiting period. Call LifeCare at 800-956-0683. 800-956-0683.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
My friend Marty, he wants to split the party. He wants blue folks in red states to vote green. I can see his point, though I really gotta say, no, we can't have another 2016. It seems nothing beats orange, nothing even freaking rhymes with it. What's a battered nation supposed to do? His Royal Orange Highness, he does love to divide us. We gotta stick together and vote blue.
That's all I'm saying. Thanks, Steve Goody, reminding us we got to vote blue. That's Steve Goody from his album, What I Did During My Pandemic Vacation, available at stevegoody.com. That's Goodie. Before we get to the calls, and I'm going to get to Jerry and Roosevelt and Jim, I do want to extend my my thoughts and prayers to White Sox fans. You've got a few minutes left. It's really hard. I'm digging deep for the sympathy. I'm a Cubs fan, and I love baseball. I really do. But it's really hard for. Okay, I'm very sorry to announce that the White Sox are in the bottom of the ninth, and they are down 10-1. Hey, it's not impossible, folks. Right? You gotta believe. Isn't that their song? They got the. Don't stop believing. So don't stop believing. You got a few minutes left if you want to catch the rest of the White Sox season. Unless there's a miracle, and I got a lot of friends who are White Sox fans, and I shouldn't even gone there because I can't. It's not. I can't. I'm trying to feign sympathy. It was exciting while it lasted, and I feel bad for business owners who might have benefited from an extended season, if not also a World Series, which also that would have been nice. Hey, Jerry in Wicker Park, how are you doing today?
Great. It was fun while it lasted, but we didn't expect too much.
There you go. Something.
But no, what I called about was the situation with the kids. These young kids killing each other.
Yeah.
And murdering each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot going on. That's the reason for that. And nobody's really doing anything about it. When people tell me that the police is doing all they can, no, they're not. They're not doing anything. You check for yourself, you find out that Chicago police are at the bottom when it comes up to solving crimes and doing what they should. That's on the police department. Parents not doing what they should be doing. Education is what gets these kids out of this situation. People got to understand that there's no more band in schools. There's some schools don't even have recess.
Right.
There's nothing to keep these kids' minds occupied. I work I'm chairman of the scholars program where we give out scholarships. We give out in 5 years in Chicago over $40 million in scholarships. But where are the kids at? Some of these kids, so many kids here. When we started out at what was it? One of the high schools, and we had about 800, 900 kids there. We had the media come in. They were, they're going to do interviews and stuff. But there was a shooting down the street. They left us, took off, ran down the street, and I'm like, wait a minute. You're going to go down there and put all this on TV with these kids, somebody shot somebody. But you got all these kids that are doing so great. They're doing so many great things. You never see them on television.
No.
Something has to change in this society.
And
the only way we can do it.
Yeah, go ahead. The only way we can do it. You continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. One other thing I want to say, people, and I was on that same bandwagon. when Bill Cosby said, hey, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Everybody was angry with him. I was too, because I'm like, what are you talking about? But you know what? He's correct. Stop sitting around waiting for somebody else to do it for you. Do it yourself. I work with kids. My son, who's a big-time musician, he teaches kids in school. He got programs in the schools in Chicago and stuff, teaching kids music. His wife teaches dance. She worked for Joffrey Ballet. These are the type of things I'm talking about. That's just a little bit. There's so many other people that could do some of the same things, and they need to step up and do it. You know, stop whining about what's not going on or what should be happening. And, you know, with the police, we need training. There's no such thing as you need training with police. Because if they treat African Americans the same way they do Caucasians when they stop them, you know, hello, Mrs. Jones, or how you doing? But with us, it's like, hey, get out of the car, get on the ground, go on your knees. Stop all of that. And these guys are saying they're quitting because they don't like what's going on. Good. Bring in some people that's going to do the job. I
think that we do need to attract more people from communities all over the city of Chicago, and figure out a way how do we recruit, because they are having trouble with their numbers for people applying for the police department too. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's what they're saying. But I'll tell you what, they do open it up. Patty, it's hard for me to believe that because I used to be the president of the union, CTA workers. And I just know better, okay? Yeah. I'm not going to argue that point, but I just know better. And I know the police, the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, and I don't want to get into personal stuff, but I know what's going on there. And I don't have a problem speaking up because I do it all the time. I have my own podcast.
I appreciate that. What's your podcast?
TalkLabor@gmail.com. That's Jerry Williams.
TalkLabor@gmail.com. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jerry. I love that.
Yeah. It's great. Been doing it for a long time.
Excellent.
Been doing it for a long time.
Well, it's a great conversation with you, and I look forward to having you back, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. Be safe. And I've got, all the phone lines. Folks have stuff to say. Jim from Chicago. Hi, Jim. How are you doing?
Hi, Patty. I think of the old axiom in my family. Anytime you leave Chicago, you're camping out. And that goes, I've been all over the world, and there's no city like Chicago. But I want to say the White Sox, I congratulate the White Sox because if they would have had their full lineup then, if Jimenez and Roberts would have played the whole season instead of like 12 games apiece, it would have been a different season. And La Russa was genius this year, keeping them in first place. Anyway, the crime problem, first of all, the war on drugs is a complete failure. Ever since I've been a kid, since Nixon was president, we got a war on drugs. More people are incarcerated, poor people.
Yes.
I mean, only wealthy people sell these drugs. To get a couple pounds of heroin, you have to have big dough. You can't be just a kid in the street. So somebody is making money somewhere down the line. But the reason I call is L.A. is very encouraging. As much as I can't stand Los Angeles, the police department is starting to turn the corner there, almost like New York did 15 years ago, whatever the heck they did. They have community policing.
Right.
And a myriad of things, probably gun buybacks. They're trying to get the pistols off the street. But their model seems to be in the United States, for a huge city, doing much better than New York and Chicago is.
Well, Chicago just unrolled. I don't know if you remember about a month ago we had Deputy Mayor of Public Safety John O'Malley on. He was talking about the way they're triaging calls, and they are rolling out these teams that include a social worker and mental health specialist. So I'm hopeful that will expand, not just with how we approach policing, but also what we're doing in communities beyond that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the extension of Medicare, it lends itself to that. The Democrats are trying to get that passed because mental health care is so expensive. I mean, I've been to a psychiatrist myself. $350 for a half an hour. The medication is through the ceiling. I mean, $1,200 for the pills. But if you can get a community psychiatrist, we've got to get it expanded throughout all the communities.
Exactly.
Where every troubled kid gets a chance to go in and some of it could be corrected probably by simple. God only knows. My point is, they should be seen by a psychiatrist. We should have it more open. It should be open to all of us. That's my point. And easily accessible.
I agree. Absolutely. You're often right, Jim. I'm trying to think of when you haven't been. I'll find something. And do the same for me.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Well, take care, Peggy.
Thanks. Take care. And we've got another who's been on hold the longest. Let's go to Roosevelt. Hey, Roosevelt. How are you doing?
Hey, Patty. First of all, I want to apologize to our fellow progressives because I'm always mumbling and stumbling and everything. I recognize my fault. Or try to. I try to criticize myself before anybody else.
Wow. Self-correction, everybody. We're doing a self-correction.
You know what made me think of that? You. The way I saw you on Facebook, your reaction to my stumbling and mumbling. But anyway, let me say.
Me, I'm tracking. Sometimes I'm thinking,
No, you got every right to. It's your show, and you only got an hour. Well, so let me go with this. The answer is not put. The answer is not put everybody in jail, and because most of the people that are locked up are minorities, and it all started with Reagan. I'm always going back to Reagan because the war on drugs, Nixon, and all those guys, and they did it as a political ploy so that the people that were in jail wouldn't vote, and it stood like that for years. He also closed a lot of centers where mentally people were, taken care of. And so there's a lot of people, that are on the street, and they don't treat them in a way of mental. They lock them up. And that's my point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of privatization of jails, and that is also a business. So the more you privatize things, and the next thing is schools. And that's where it's going because they want to privatize schools. The Republican Party, and that's another form of busting unions. So, and I'm going to close with this. I don't know what you think about what I just said. So
you can go back and watch. You can go back and watch the Facebook Live video and see how I reacted too, right?
All right.
Yeah, but what were you going to say? Go ahead.
But that's not the answer, and it's a combination of things. A lot of people that were talking before me had a lot of good points and excellent points. But I do remember that when I was young, when I was in high school, there was a lot of places where kids could go after school and learn and trades and things like that. And that's no longer.
Yeah.
That's no longer, you got to keep the young minds busy. And how do you do it? The only way you could do it is at home. But they want to spread their wings. They want to, do their own thing, like everybody. We were all young, And by the way, in closing, Norman Goldman used to say, Democrats are very impatient and the Republicans are for the long haul.
Yes.
In other words, they don't. Yeah, and he goes, Democrats act like they want things to be done like the way you brew a cup of coffee, in a matter of minutes. And he used to say that elections are won in the margins, in the middle. So
100%, I agree with that. Yes, thank you for that reminder.
So, and I love Norman Goldman. I wish he would come back because he was great. He was very good.
Well, he was doing that out of his the goodness of his heart because that was something he self-funded those shows. I agree. 100% Roosevelt. So go back and watch the footage. Now, I make faces all the time, Roosevelt. I'm sorry if you took anything personally.
I like to be criticized because I want to learn. I want to correct my errors. And one more thing. Go Sky, because the White Sox just lost 10-1.
They did. White Sox season's over. Go Sky. Take care, Roosevelt. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. We're going to take the rest of our calls when we come back. We've got Gary on hold, Howard, and Heather. When we come back, we'll listen to more conversation with our incredible audience. 773-763-9278, although the lines are pretty full, I'll be honest. You're listening to WCPT 820, and we're driving it home.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
Governors of pro-Trump states
They must show their fealty towards Trump by mitigating any support for the health and safety of their own citizens against COVID so that they don't upset him or the minority of his supporters amongst the Republicans in their state, which are often the majority of the voters in their state.
Hal Sparks, Saturdays from 11 to 1 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
O'Reilly. It's Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. That means you can get up to a $25 gift card after mail-in rebate with the purchase of your Superstart battery. Return power, performance, and reliability to your car, truck, motorcycle, and more with Superstart batteries. Only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Did you know the arrow in Amazon's logo represents A to Z? Maybe the My Computer Career logo should represent unemployed to employed. Ryan was out of work when he started classes in March. In September, he started his IT career, working for Amazon, making more money than he ever thought possible. Here's a prime opportunity. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You could start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
So, what are you sipping? Whether it's our freshly ground coffee to wake you up, or an icy Polar Pop cup or Froster to keep you going, our new Sip and Save drink subscription at Circle K will keep you refreshed every day. Join Circle K's Sip and Save and grab any size drink every day for just $5.99 a month. Yeah! Start sipping and saving today. Just sign up with your mobile number when you check out at Circle K. Limited time offer at participating locations.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
I love that everyone's got something to say today, and that's as it should be. What are you thinking? I'm so happy you guys are calling. And Gary has been on hold. I'm also happy that you're holding on, that you're patient with me. Hey, Gary, how are you doing?
Oh, very well.
Excellent.
How about yourself, Patty?
I love beautiful fall days like this, where there's a little bit of a briskness in the air. I'm not thrilled that the White Sox lost, but also I don't have to see all my Sox fans bragging on social media anymore, so that's also good. It's terrible, isn't it?
I'm more of a Cubs fan than versus a Sox fan. Unfortunately, I lived on the South Side. Being in Pilsen on 23rd and Point, so I got a lot of backlash, but I graduated from Gordon Tech.
Oh.
That was many years ago.
Well, I graduated from Lane Tech many years ago. What's on your mind, Gary?
Basically, I follow you guys all the time. Elliot and Adam. Adam does a great job.
Oh, thank you. Isn't he amazing? Yeah.
You guys do an awesome job. One of the hardest things I feel is we have to get more stores, to open up in the poorer sections of the city.
Yep.
And the problem is that a lot of times when you open those stores and then there's a riot and then they get looted. Yep. And the big companies don't want to come back anymore. And that's a problem. We have to convince them to come back. Okay? And as you know, I also said that I'm, a former policeman and also a gunnery sergeant. Those people who stormed the Capitol were totally wrong. And, it's a horrible thing. You don't go storming a Capitol building. But I also blame a little bit on Pelosi. She had the power to bring in people, to, cover it. That's a sad part.
You mean support the law enforcement that was there, but wasn't right? But my understanding was that there were requests and they were denied for more manpower.
She can also override that.
Okay.
Okay. It's it's a bad thing to say because the Capitol Police, just like at the Tribune, they call themselves Tribune Police, and all I'm saying, they're just security. They're not police. They're not municipality police.
Right.
They're only police on that area. Now, she could have brought in a lot more, okay? And it's a roll of the dice. And what Trump did was horrible, because when you have a group of people in one area, even I, as a gunnery sergeant, know that this is going to flow out. This is dangerous. And you have to anticipate those things. So there are some bad scenarios in there where a lot of top people should be accountable for. Okay? And when you got life and death, I give a lot of those Capitol Police a lot of dignity, because if Marines were there, you may have seen a worse scenario. You know, it's a sad situation. But
I'm looking at a fact check, because apparently this was something that was going around on social media a lot after the insurrection. Obviously, the claim that Pelosi was in charge of the U.S. Capitol Police during the insurrection has circulated for months. But a look at the Capitol Police's chain of command shows that Pelosi wasn't in charge of the law enforcement agency and didn't even serve on the committee, the congressional committees that oversee the agency. And I'm just not finding anything that says that she had the ability to override any of that either. But go ahead. That's your understanding of it.
No. Basically, as a chairman of the House, and she's the chairman of Congress, she can actually tell people, I need support here more than the Capitol.
Gotcha.
Okay. And it's basically, you know, and this is only my opinion, is that she rolled the dice, and she wanted to, you know, because everyone knows how Trump reporters are nuts, and but she didn't expect them to be that nutty. And anyone who served in the military.
I did. I was following a lot of their social media posts. If you go back and look at my Twitter account from late December and January, I'm like, stay away from DC. Do not engage. And there were people from my neighborhood who were like posting pictures of themselves in hotels and the "Don't Tread on Me" flags, and going back and having fireball shots after going into the Capitol. I mean, like, no, I definitely thought they were going to be crazy. That crazy.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
That you would have more people out there. So there's definitely a break in command there somewhere. And it's only my opinion. I think she rolled the dice. And just to show how ignorant Trump supporters are. You know.
Oh, I see what you're saying. To let them show let their freak flag fly is what you're saying, is what you tried doing.
Yes.
I see.
Exactly.
Interesting. Oh, that's an interesting theory there, Gary. Do you mind if I run? Because I have two more callers, and I'm almost done with the show. I've got 2 minutes left, and I got to give them one each.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm sorry for taking
no, don't apologize.
I hope you got my picture. I sent you a picture.
Oh, I'll have to take a look and see if I received that, Gary. And thank you for mentioning, by the way, that's Gary's talking about Whiskey and a Cookie every Friday night that we do on Facebook on my Patti V Show page. And Adam Selzer, who is the master of storytelling in Chicago history and haunted, all that stuff. So thank you for mentioning that, Gary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I sent you a picture on Messenger, and I hope you got it.
Oh.
But it is a picture from Resurrection Cemetery.
Oh, awesome.
It'd be kind of fun.
Appreciate that. I'll take a look. Thank you.
All right. God bless.
God bless, Gary. Great to hear from you. And we've got on hold Howard and Elgin. Hey, Howard, how are you doing today?
Good. I tell you, I like Roosevelt very much. And another thing, what I'm thinking is to stop the crime in Chicago, they should go and get the city to donate boarded up houses and take the young people and train them to work on these houses, and have a program where you give them a nail gun for a handgun.
Ooh.
And let them teach them how to work and earn money, and they would have a lot more fun using a nail gun and not hurting nobody, but put $1 in their pocket.
I love that idea.
They would put houses back on the tax roll, put low-income families in a home, and it's a win for everybody.
You know what? There's a program in Birmingham, Alabama called Build Up Birmingham. Turns low-income students into homeowners and how to build generational wealth. That might not actually be the building homes, but I'm looking for similar. I always try to find similar programs, and because I love that idea, Howard. Thank you so much for that.
All right, but I got one thing.
Yes.
I work on the south side of Chicago, and I can't get my white helpers to go with me.
Yeah.
And when I go, I see boys, men hanging out, and I walk up to them, and I say, I need some help. Who will help me? And I said, you can earn a few dollars.
Uh-huh.
And I've never been turned down.
And
I've never had a problem.
Howard, I look forward to talking to you again. I love your energy, and I love the conversation. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. Take care. And I've got to say goodbye with a conversation with Heather. Heather, what do you want to say before we go?
I was listening a little earlier, but I got stuck because I was on the phone with someone else for something.
That's all right.
But I did hear you saying that Joan had said it's not just them, it is us, it is everybody who is affected when the shootings happen.
Yep.
Because we don't know if that's somebody who's related to a friend of ours, family member of ours, all that, but that comes from somebody who might be somewhat of a bleeding heart.
Same here. We don't have to be related to them to want them to be well, to want our neighbors to be safe. And by neighbors, I mean anyone in a community that is, this whole planet is our community. It just is. And I know it's corny, but that's how I am. Thank you, Heather. Have a great rest of your night, okay? I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. And thank you to everyone who called in today. Thank you, everybody here at WCPT, for a great day. I love working here so much. I love our listeners. All right. Talk to you tomorrow, everyone. Be well, be happy, healthy, and safe. The Rick Unger Show is up next. Hey, Larry and Betty, let me know how dinner is these days. All right. I'm never going to hear from them. Oops, sorry. All set.
WCPT encourages you to think green. A healthy compost pile is easy to maintain with a few simple steps. Composting relies on heat, water, air, and a mixture of greens, fresh grass clippings, spent flowers, and fruit and vegetable scraps, and browns, straw, dried leaves, and pine needles. Add smashed up eggshells, coffee grounds, tea bags, and even shredded black and white newspaper. Do not add animal products, meat, dairy, gravy, bones, and mayo, or grease and oils to prevent unpleasant odors